Welcome to Secrets of a Bridal Seamstress podcast, where we hear stories from fellow seamstresses just like you who are able to share their success stories. We learn from wedding industry pros for the best business tips, and we get to hear from fellow sewists and crafters to hopefully inspire our creativity and our love for sewing. I'm so glad that you're here. And if you're a bridal seamstress, I'd also like to invite you to check out our Bridal Seamstress business membership. We have a community of women that can testify to the power of genuine connection, friendship, vulnerability, the power of our six-figure seamstress method, and a genuine connection found in a business mentorship like this. All right, let's dive into the episode. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Secrets of a Bridal Seamstress, Six-Figure Friday edition. There was a promise to keep these episodes allegedly short. So like 10 to 12 minutes. So I'm looking at the clock and I'm really trying to honor that promise because our Friday episodes are supposed to be short and quick and just something for you to take in on the way to the weekend. So each week I want to share with you a tip that you can integrate into your business, take with you, put it in your pocket to implement on Monday. And today we're going to talk about social media. Ugh, that's such a big topic, but I want to encourage you to consider if you're using social media as a tool, or is social media just becoming this like mindless habit instead? So we're going to get into like 3 quick tips that you can implement regarding social media. But first, I want to give you a friendly reminder about our upcoming Bridal Summit that's happening in Fredericksburg, Virginia on Monday, June 16th. So there's a link in the show notes if you want to register for that. It's going to be noon to 8 p.m. at the Ava Loren Bridal in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And Wendy Rivera and her team over at Do You Speak Bride are hosting this event. It's going to be for bridal stylists and for bridal seamstresses. It'll just be a great opportunity to break up your busy sewing season, connect with other seamstresses, meet some new friends, gather some new education and inspiration. And I would love to see you there. So if you haven't grabbed your ticket yet, there's a link in the show notes. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions about that, but I hope to see you there. Okay, so I feel like the subject of social media is huge, and this could honestly be like a full episode, but to keep it nice and short and concise, I'm going to do my best. I recently read the book, The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. It is an incredible read if you haven't heard of it yet or listened to the audiobook or read it, whatever. And I didn't mean to wear this shirt in talking about the book, but it says the book was better, so it is fitting. But anyway, the subject of the book is all about how the smartphone changed the childhood for Gen Z, and also, of course, explores social media and how social media affects our minds, our way of life. It can take over our way of life. And it was just a great challenge. I want to say it was eye-opening. I've already been more conscientious of social media stuff personally, and I've made some personal choices the past couple of years, probably the past year in particular. So this book just reinforced those feelings and challenged me even further, and I just feel like so convicted about this. I want like the world to know. So if you have the time to listen to this book, read it. It's full of so many good nuggets. And like I said, I'd love for this to be a full episode in of itself, just digging into this book. But of course, it applies to us as business owners because we have social media as a free tool to use to market our businesses and attract future clients. So it's really difficult for us to just like quit Instagram or can't, delete our TikTok or whatever. We want to be able to use these tools wisely as a tool. Right? So when you think about when you need to use a tool in your life, what do? You have a project that you're working on. You go to the room that has the tool. So it's like you go to the garage or you go to the craft room and you pull out the tool, you use it to finish the job. And then what do? You put the tool away and you leave the room, or you like come back in the house from the garage and the tool is sitting where it's supposed to sit. It's waiting for you when you're ready to use it for the next project. You're not just holding the tool in your hand throughout the whole day, like looking at it, practicing how you're going to use it or whatever, but not really using it for any project. Okay. So if you think about social media along the same lines, how many of us are really using it as a tool? And how many of us are just kind of using it to distract ourselves, or it's just this like unintentional habit and we want to break this habit, right? This is a conversation that we have often in our membership because lately I've been struggling with how to even host like challenges, like social media challenges. We want to like post on Instagram or TikTok and like promote a business, but I also don't want to be telling our members to like be on there all the time or feel the pressure to like post all the time. So internally, I've been struggling because I feel like this is like a me thing. It's my own personal issue, and I don't want to bring that into the membership. I want people to, use this tool the way that they want to or as often as they want to. But then there's this other part of me that's like, no, save yourself. So it's a whole thing. It's like this internal struggle, obviously. But there are a few tips that we've talked about within SBS that I'd love to share with you. I've heard great feedback from my members that this can be just really helpful in the big picture usage of social media, right? One really important thing to remember is that when social media has developed their apps or their programs, I don't know if you call them programs, apps, yeah. We are not the consumers or their clients. We're actually the product, right? Their consumers, their clients are the advertisers who are paying big bucks for those perfectly personalized advertisements that we see as we scroll along, right? When I see those chicken pajamas pop up, it's like that is definitely for me, and I guess it doesn't take much to know that I would want chicken pajamas, but like those ads that we see pop up, companies are paying a lot of money for those ads to be seen by your eyes only. And so you are not a client in that relationship, you are the product. So that kind of alone should make us feel like, oh, what am I doing with the time that I'm spending on social media, right? So a couple of tips to help you kind of take the power back. And again, this can be a longer conversation, and I would love for it to be a longer conversation, actually. But number one, are you a consumer or are you a creator? Think about that the next time you're ready to open your social media app. And I know we've actually talked about this specific thing, I think, on a podcast episode before. But if you just take a beat and think, am I producing something? Am I a creator? Am I going to be posting information or something beautiful or something lovely to share with my quote unquote audience or my future clients? Or am I opening this app to just consume whatever is brought before my eyes? Am I just going to be scrolling to compare myself to someone else or feed into something petty or check out whatever drama's going on, or I don't know, like, or just mindlessly scroll until I get bored? I will admit, I do love to just go through like the silly reels. I have, I think, in my algorithm, a finely tuned algorithm of people falling and jump scares, and I love that. And of course, like the chicken videos. So that's like they know me. And then there's this guy, Mitch Wood, and he does all these like impersonations of like, you know, Broadway actors. Anyway, if you know who Mitch Wood is, we're soulmates. But yeah, so like that kind of stuff, I do love to mindlessly scroll. I can't help myself. And we're going to come back to that of when and where to do the mindless scrolling, right? But when you're opening up your business social media, think, are you a creator or are you a consumer? And especially when you're talking about your business Instagram or your business TikTok, you should just be hopping in there as the creator because you have an audience that you want to reach, you have specific clients that you want to reach, and you don't need to be spending any more time on that app, right? Personally, even when I have with both accounts, honestly, with my Sweet Francis Sewing Co. and with Secrets of Bridal Seamstress, like I have an intention when I open up that app, I'm going to post something either in my stories or post a whatever on my feed. And then even when it comes to stories, I have specific people that I want to check out their stories. I'm looking at like my members. I have a couple friends that I'll be looking through, but I haven't gone through stories. I don't know. It has to be like a couple years because stories were created for us to just go one into the other, into the other, into the other. And I was like, oh, I just don't want to get into that habit. So just even controlling how I observe stories. And as a business owner, when I open those apps, or those profiles, it's like, what am I here to do? And for the most part, I really try to honor that, like coming in as a creator. So give yourself just a beat to think, am I a creator or a consumer before you open your next social media app? Okay, the next thing that we do with the membership, or I shouldn't say we do because I don't want to speak on behalf of everybody, but something that we promote in the membership is to have like a personal account that's separate from business. And it's not for the reason that you think it might be. So it's not to keep your personal life separate from your business life. I mean, if you want to do that, I totally get it. And you might want to just keep your branding, and your personal life. And we have members that do both. We have some that they're like, I just want to have one account and like, this is me. So I'm going to be sharing personal stuff and business stuff in one account, whatever. I like to encourage having a personal account more so for your own accountability so that you are realizing like, okay, when I log into my quote unquote business accounts, I better be up in here for business. And if I'm not going to get anything done, there's really no reason for me to be here. When you're logging into your personal account, you can do whatever you want. I follow like the foodie people and the chickens and like these workout people. I don't know why, because I'm not really working out. Let's get real. Who else do I follow on there? Yeah, just like funny stuff. I don't know. Local friends, my SBS friends, I follow their like personal accounts too, whatever, because it's just personal. And I'm also honest with myself. Like when I am logging into that account, I am just goofing off. So I can't tell myself I am quote unquote working when I'm on social media. If I'm just scrolling or like whatever, like wasting time, that is not working, right? So there should be a purpose to working. And then our third tip is to protect your heart and to protect your eyes when you're opening up a social media app, right? It's not difficult only for teenage girls, right? I think this book that I mentioned earlier, it was really focused on like how social media can be damaging to teenage girls. It can also be damaging to adults. Like if you're just not protecting yourself because people can be mean behind a keyboard, right? I think we've all experienced that where it's like, okay, like you wouldn't say it to my face, but you have no problem like typing that, or we're not even like friends. I don't even know you. Why are you like sending me this message? But when you have a public face, so when you decide to open your business and now you have like a public social media presence for your business, sometimes people just think that they have a right to send you stuff that they don't really have a right to send you because they're not your friend. So, or they just feel like they can be super, quote unquote, honest or whatever. And it's really code word for rude. So you're facing that with this new culture that has come with social media. One of the themes that Jonathan Haidt covered in his book was how social media has such a different moral compass from like the real world. So you're encouraged to be pretty selfish, pretty petty, kind of edgy in your DMs, because just say it like it is. Well, you would never say that to my face, but you're going to put that in a message or in a comment or whatever. So just consider that it's not the real world and you want to protect your heart. There's no business in the world is worth hurting your heart over, right? And it's okay to protect yourself. One of my friends, Michelle Grosser, she's actually going to be with us in Scottsdale for Fall Fest, Scottsdale, Arizona. And she's a mindset coach, she's a life coach, she's a lawyer turned podcaster and life coach. She just has a really cool story. And she taught me this great concept that she's like, just because people sent the message doesn't mean you need to open the message. You just because social media tells us that everybody has a right to you, like has a right to have you like read their messages or see their stories or whatever, like they don't have that right. You still have the right to protect yourself and to protect your heart, and you can leave a message, what is it, on read. Sometimes I read a message and I want to think about it before I respond. So it's like, and I do that with my friends. It's not like a diss. And you can even leave a message unread. You can just delete it because if they're just somebody that you kind of know on the interwebs, like just because they sent the message doesn't mean you need to read it or respond to it. And I think this culture of like having to respond or having to engage, it's not real life, and we forget that. Like we forget what real life is compared to like what social media life is. So keep that in mind that your heart is worth protecting. And if you have a public account, if you put your face out there and your life out there to start a business, and now you kind of have to have a public, whether it's like a Google page or then you take the extra step and you want to have a social media accounts for your business, you're just opening yourself up to people you don't know, but that doesn't mean that they have a right to access you. Does that make sense? Just because they send it or just because they say that does not mean you need to engage or that you need to respond or even read whatever they send you. So you still have that right to privacy and you have the right to protect your heart. I think when we forget those things, the moral of the story is that social media is different than real life. And these three tips are just to remind you that social media is a tool and your worth is not determined by social media, but if you can use the tool and then put it away until you need to use it again, and then you leave the room, that's the best way to take advantage of this free resource that we have and not just like let it take over your life. So I feel like this could be a longer conversation. And if you want to talk more about this or specifically about the book, let me know. And this could maybe be a full size episode. Okay, have a great weekend and let me know if you appreciate this tip or what your takeaways were and how you're going to implement these little tips into your own life, maybe starting Monday. All right, I'll see you guys next week.